Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today is True Crime Tuesday. This is the first of many videos that I'm going to post every Tuesday that's dealing with some of the most hideous crimes ever. I will have some period pieces, some pieces of today, and then some that may be a few decades ago. So that is something that you're interested in. Make sure that you come back every Tuesday for a new case. If you have any case suggestions, please drop them below on the comments. If you like the information that I'm providing to you, definitely drop that down below. Give me thumbs up, interact with me, ask questions, tell me your take on it. Just let's chat together, okay? Before we get into the first case, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I do family lifestyle vlogs, but I'm also going to be dabbling into the true crime world as well. And I make that exclusively only on Tuesdays just for the crime junkies, okay? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first case. Now, February 1992, Jeffrey Dahmer was convicted of some of the most grotesque crimes that we both know about. That recently had a Netflix special that kind of reignited the fire about the whole Jeffrey Dahmer case and everything that he did to those victims. But what if I told you 10 years before, he actually had a precursor that was just as demented and sadistic as him, another necrophile, just like him. Like, you would not believe the scary and the uncanny characteristics between these two men. Who that man is? Dennis Nilsen, and I will make sure to include a photo right here beside me. His name was Dennis Nilsen, you all. Now, they both shared a superficial similarity, meaning they both had kind of a floppy hair. They both wore the thick aviator type frames, but they also both share that right underneath their surface of them, that need to kill a specific type of victim. You guys judge for yourself. Do you think that Dahmer and Nilsen are two of the same? So let's go ahead and get started. And if you guys see me glancing down, just kind of glancing down through my notes. In Dennis' earlier years, when he was little and growing up, he actually was raised predominantly by his mom and his grandparents, right? His dad was there physically, but he wasn't in the picture, if you know what I mean. He was an absent father. He was physically there, but he was not there. He didn't interact with any of the children. He didn't interact with his wife. He just was taking up space. Nilsen was very close with his grandfather, absolutely loved and adored his grandfather. That was his idol, that was his superhero, and that is who he looked up to. I mean, he absolutely worshiped this man. He loved his grandfather. Well, unfortunately, when Dennis was about 5 or 6 years old, his grandfather did suffer a heart attack and he did pass away. So how did Dennis' mother decide to let her son know about, what was going on, or the whole death, or kind to explain death to a young child? Because, I mean, 5 or 6 and your superhero died, you have to explain that to a child, and you have to put it in a language such that they understand. Now, many kids would have took what his mom said and been like, okay, mom, I understand, one day I'll see him again. But his mom said that he's gone to a better place. As Nilsen grew older, his grandfather passed away. Nilsen is now growing older. He actually became more of a recluse from his family. He just wasn't very talkative. He wasn't really around them a lot. Like, they were there and they existed in his world as far as physically being there, but he really wasn't there. He wasn't a part of the family. He was just there in the family. And so he got really jealous of his siblings' relationship. Like, they were just blossoming and talking to each other and just being the best of friends and just communicating in the family. And his grandmother, they were all still living in the house of their late grandfather, and everybody's just being this one big, huge, happy family. And here he is sitting in the corner of his home, just mopey and sad. Just, that is probably kind of the turning point for what is about to transpire later on. Just being this recluse is something, and this loner that he just never quite shook. So Nelson also had a near-death experience when he was young as well. He was at the beach, chilling, playing, having a good time, doing what kids do. Again, he was a loner, so I'm definitely sure he was probably out there by himself looking at the waves when he got too close and the wave took him under and he began to drown. But just as sure as he was panicking, he also just immediately had this calm sensation kind of just come over him. And it was almost as if he felt that his grandfather was there with him at that moment to, I guess, you know, in a way, take the pain away. Because I don't think he ever dealt with those feelings of his grandfather and losing someone so close to him. And so maybe he thought, this is my grandfather coming to get me from this better place that he's at. While all that was happening, another little young boy saw him go under and drown, or almost about to drown, and he actually rescued him and pulled him ashore to the beach. And, you know, after coughing up some spit and salt water, he was fine. So after that incident, his mom decided just to move him, his brother, and his sister to a flat off in the city. Nilsen's mom, she did actually later marry a man named by the name of Andrew Scott, and they had 4 additional kids. So it was Nilsen, his 2 siblings, plus the 4 additional kids that Andrew Scott, his stepdad, and his mom had. And they moved to Stricken in 1955. So a lot transpired in these early years, but you guys, we're still in his early years. Like now we about to transition over to his teenage years because it just, stuff keeps building and building and building and building. So you guys gonna kind of, I'm gonna lay these layers of this cake on and you're gonna see like where he goes boom. So Nilsen actually discovered that he was gay in his teenage years, right? He was confused. He was ashamed because you got to think like this was some time ago. So he had to keep those feelings inside. He was ashamed. He was confused. A lot of stuff was going on through his mind. And he was like, I'm just going to keep that part of me a secret. I'm just going to lock it away and keep that part of me a secret. But y'all, that's when stuff really started getting spicy because he did not fully address these feelings and put it out on the table and really kind of get to the root of the problem and understand what was going on. So Nilsen actually fondled his little sister, Sylvia, and his older brother, Olive Jr. Now, because of that, Nilsen didn't actually think he was gay. He thought he was bisexual because he was like, well, you know, basically my sister's a girl, so I can't possibly be gay. Now, on the other hand, Olive Jr., he was like, oh no, the beep, you did not. No, you did not try to touch my wee-wee, okay? And he was like, I'm just going to blast it in front of everybody. He started calling him hen. So hen is a Scottish dialect or derogatory term that they call men who act girly. So in America, we have a few choice words, one of them being sissy. We have some that are a little bit more vulgar that starts with an F. You know, but you know, those particular words, that's equivalent to, in the Scottish dialect, of calling a young boy hen is basically calling him girly or soft. And so Olive Jr., who is Nilsen's older brother, used to call him hen in front of everybody. And Nilsen was like, I ain't taking this ish, okay? I ain't taking this. I'm tired of being poor. I'm tired of living this flat with all these children. I'm tired of you calling me hen. I'm tired of all these confused feelings that's kind of going on in my mind. I'm not really sure what's going on. So you know what? I'm going to get up out of here. I'm going to get up out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. And so at 14 years old, he actually joined the Army Cadet Force. He was like, deuces, I'm going to go travel the world. I'm going to go make some money and I'm going to make something of myself. Like, I'm not coming back. I don't need y'all. I'm out. So now we're still in his teenage years and he's in his Army life. Now, nothing bad really happened during his time as a cadet. So he passed the entrance examination, received his official notification that he would serve 9 years beginning September of 1961, right? So he actually excelled in his Army duties. He did a fabulous job. And these were some of the happiest moments in his life. He's traveling, he's making money. It's finally something he's good at. And he loved it. He absolutely loved it. But while Nilsen was still stationed at outer shots, and please bear with me with these words and these pronunciations, his feelings, his sexual orientation, it was very much still there. So those feelings, those desires were very, very much there. So to hide his desires, he decided to only use the communal showers when there was no men there. He didn't want to risk them seeing he get a boop. He was like, no, I can't risk them seeing me get a, because that would be very embarrassing. That would definitely have people giving him the side eye, like, Nilsen, you cool, my dude? Like, are you cool? What's going on? Why you the only one in here with the So to prevent any embarrassment, he took his showers alone, but that also gave him the opportunity to get off, if you will, explore himself. So he was definitely cool with that, and he absolutely enjoyed having those communal showers to himself. He was actually reassigned to the battalion in West Germany. Now, at this time, his alcohol consumption, it had begun to increase to the point that he was getting blackout drunk, wasted. One time he was drinking with a German male, and when he blacked out at this particular young man's flat, he actually came to first, and that kind of fueled some sexual fantasies in him. Like, he wakes up from his stupor and he looks and he sees this very still, naked body next to him. And that right there, that unleashed the beast inside of him. It really did. I think that that's when things began to change. So on several occasions, Nilsen also made effort to have his own body sexually interfered with by one of his colleagues. Like, he tried to put himself in compromising situations so he could potentially be fondled while he's asleep or while he's in a drunken stupor. Like, who goes this far? Like, whose mind is really this depraved? Like, you have to be a special someone to be like, let me get drunk and let me just lay here and maybe they will fondle my body while I'm unconscious. Like, So, but it doesn't stop there. It's now 1967 and Nilsen is back in Aldershot, where he is a cook for the British Army in Norway. So Nilsen, again, he's loving it because now he has his own private room. So that means he can masturbate in peace and he can have all the crazy fantasies that he wants. And boy, did he. He also would look at himself in the mirror, masturbate in like a freestanding mirror, but he will purposely crop it so he only saw from the neck down, okay? And he began to split his personalities, if you will, and essentially looking over the body as if it was him masturbating like this dead corpse or this passive person. Like, he was just domineering and just looking over. Like, Nilsen lived with his family as he considered his next career move because he decided to go ahead and get out out of the military. Now, during this time, his mother expressed how she wanted her son to marry and have a family, and just going on and on and on. Like, that's how parents are. Like, oh my God, I would love to have grandchildren one day, and I would love to see you marry, you know, a beautiful woman, and you guys have a family and a white picket fence and a dog and the 2 children, and just give me grandkids that I can kiss and love upon. The whole family is like in the house while she's like going over this and wishing all of this for her son. And oh, his older brother, Olive Jr., he was like, he's gay. He's gay, Mom. He is gay. He's never going to marry a woman. He's never going to have grandchildren for you. He's gay. He like men. He's gay. He's gay, gay, gay. And he said this in front of everybody. And Dennis got so upset that they fought. They fought. And I mean, just tearing up the coffee table, falling all over the furniture. Like, he was pissed off. Like, I dare you out me in front of my family. But that sent him over the edge, and that was the last time that he actually really spoke and visited his parents. Up until this point, Nilsen had some pretty dark and sadistic desires, but he haven't actually murdered anyone yet. Between the years of 1978 and 1983, Nilsen is known to have killed a minimum, listen to me, you guys, a minimum of 12 men and boys. A minimum 12 men and boys. It can definitely be a lot more, which I truly believe that it is, but a minimum of 12 men and boys. Minimum. He attempted to kill 7 other men. Now, he did initially confess to killing about 16 victims in 1983, but for whatever reason, he kind of retracted his statement. And so we said they basically court-wise, whatever, said minimum of 12. Now, most of his victims were either homeless or they were gay men that he might have picked up at the local bar. So there were 2 addresses, Melrose Avenue and Cranley Gardens, and that is where he did all of his killing and or where he stashed and buried the body. His first victim was actually 14-year-old Stephen Horn, and he actually encountered him at the Cricklewood Arms Pub on December 30th, 1978. So Nilsen basically, and you're going to see this same pattern with Nilsen, is that he said, "Hey, Holmes, you want to come grab a drink in my house?" And Horn was like, "Yeah, cool. You know, I like you. You like me. What's a drink or two? So let's go ahead and we can finish this party, you know, up in your flat." So they drank together to the point that, because remember, he was getting blackout drunk. So he basically got blackout drunk and they ended up falling asleep. So Nilsen woke up before Holmes did, just like, you know, before. And he feared that Holmes was going to leave him. Like, "You're not leaving me. You're here forever." So he feared that Holmes was going to leave. And so he strangled him in his sleep. He strangled him with a necktie until he was unconscious. So I will, there's a couple clips that you will see like that I will insert here. Once Holmes was actually unconscious for being strangled, he did this a lot with a lot of his victims. He then would drag their body to the kitchen sink where he would then drown them while they're unconscious with a bucket of water. So Nilsen then masturbated twice over Holmes' body and then hid him under the floorboards of his house. He later burned his body about 8 months later. Okay, so he had this body under his floorboards for 8 months before he finally buried his body behind his house, or burned his body behind the house. So his next victim is actually Andrew Hoy, who was actually a student from Hong Kong. Same thing, he met him in a pub. He lured her to his home with the promise of more drinks and a great time. Andrew Hoy was like, "Okay, cool, that sounds good. Like, you're a pretty decent looking guy. Like, you don't look like, you know, you're a sadistic killer that wants to kill me or anything like that. So yeah, sure, I will go upstairs with you." And so that's exactly what he did. He went upstairs and the same thing, you guys. He was like, they started drinking, one thing led to another. But Nilsen had more than mind. He wanted more than sex. He wanted more than booze. He wanted to kill him. So the same thing, he began to strangle Andrew Hoy. Now, the good thing about it is that Andrew Hoy was actually able to escape Nilsen, and he actually did not press any charges against Nilsen. He basically was like, look, I just want to forget this, pretend like it never happened. It was a bad dream. I want to go on, finish doing my studies, get a good job, and leave and just forget about this entire nightmare. Like, we're cool, no charges, just don't come after me again. So Andrew Hoy was one of the first victims who actually did, one of the 7 victims who actually did escape Nilsen. And again, he did not press any charges, right? So a few months go by, Nilsen began to get that itch again, like, I want to repeat this. I want to do it all over again. So he met another male student by the name of Kenneth Okenden, who was actually from Canada. So Nilsen said, hey, Kenneth, why don't you come up to my apartment and, we have a few drinks, get to know each other a little bit better. And Kenneth was like, okay, cool. That sounds good. We can definitely do that. And then, maybe the next day or the next day we can, go look around London or whatever. Unfortunately, he strangled Kenneth Okenden to death while he was listening to music, and he did not make it. The next day, Nilsen posed with his body in a number of suggestive positions, and he photographed each one. Like that was his trophy. Like he wanted to remember that moment. He also took it a step forward by watching TV with his body. And once he was done, he did wrap his body in plastic bags and place him under the floorboards. It is known that he dug up this body. He dug up Kenneth Okenden's body 4 times on 4 different occasions, positioning him in the armchair of his home. He drank and watched TV with this dead corpse, with Kenneth Okenden's corpse next to him. So Nilsen's criminal activity, it began to increase anymore starting in August of 1980. So after trying to spray the bodies with deodorant and insecticides, because obviously they're decomposing, they're smelling, and maggots and things are beginning to form on their body because that's just the natural life circle, because we're trying to turn back the dirt. He dismembered the bodies and burned them in a waste ground behind his home. So in October, when Nilsen's landlord decided to renovate the property, Nilsen disposed of his latest victim earlier on and moved into an attic flat at 23 Cranley Gardens. Now it's January 26, 1983. Nilsen killed his final victim. There's several victims, but this was his final victim, okay? Now, mind you, a lot of these victims are buried underneath like the floorboards and stuff like that of his house, or he burnt them, in the garden, that sort of thing. So Stephen Sinclair, who was strangled while in an alcohol-induced stupor. So very similar situation happened with Sinclair. So after killing him, Nilsen noticed that Sinclair's wrist was actually bandaged because he actually tried to commit suicide and take his life a few days prior to him actually being killed. So Nilsen bathed his body, applied talcum powder to his body, and he arranged him in a mirror around the bed before undressing him and himself. And he lied there naked next to this dead youth, this troubled youth who already had a lot going on anyway, to the point that he actually attempted to kill himself. After Nilsen laid with his body for several hours, he began to kiss the body. He wished the body could sleep. He fell asleep, alongside the body. And the body was subsequently dismembered and the parts placed in different bags, with Sinclair's own bandages being used to seal the bag. The bandages that were wrapped around his wrist from where he tried to commit suicide were used to tie the bags that his body parts were in. So Nilsen actually played a hand in his downfall. He was like, my toilet's not flushing. Like, what is going on with this plumbing? Like, what in the world? Nilsen called his landlord and he complained an emergency plumber up there, because he was like, you know, there are certain situations, certain things that happen that is considered emergency. So I'm not sure how many bathrooms he had in his house. It's probably safe to say he had one bathroom. So because of that, you know, obviously that's an emergency. We got to get these pipes unclogged. So they send the emergency plumber right on over. Well, boy, he was in for a surprise, because when he began to go through the pipes to try to get the clog out, he actually saw some flesh-like substance and small bones. So by the next morning, the draining has been suspiciously cleared, but the evidence of further flesh and bones were found in the pipe. So, the supervisors and all the pipe and the plumbers and stuff are getting down there because they're trying to get this issue fixed. And now all of a sudden the pipes are cleared. Like, they were just clogged. Nilsen was just complaining, but now their suspicion is clear. However, they weren't cleared enough. He didn't do a good of a job because there was still some evidence very much still there. So the police were called and the pathologist confirmed that the remains were indeed human. One piece of skin was from a neck bearing a ligature mark, as if he was strangled, right? So Nilsen initially feigned shock, mess with me about where's the rest of the body, end quote. So he responded calmly and he admitted that it could be found in 2 plastic bags in a wardrobe. One of these contained 2 dissected torsos alongside a smaller shopping bag with assorted internal organs. The second held a human skull almost completely devoid of flesh, a severed head, and a torso with the arms attached, but the hands are gone. So in a police interview, Nilsen said, that there were remains in a tea chest in his living room and an upturned drawer in his bathroom. The dismembered body parts belonged to 3 different men, all of whom had been strangled to death by Nilsen. Nilsen admitted to killing at least 15 people, but ultimately was convicted of the murders of 6 men and 2 attempted murders. He was sentenced to life in prison on November 4th, 1983. Nilsen sentenced to life in prison on November 4th, 1983. So when Nilsen was 72 years old, he had to go, he underwent a surgery because he actually had a ruptured abdominal aneurysm. A lot of people wanted to know if he suffered, and from what the resource material said, that he actually sat in his own filth for hours just suffering because he had this blood clot, which is very painful. He just had this surgery on his abdominal area to repair this aneurysm, and he just sat for hours in his own filth and bowel and feces and just in this terrible pain. He ultimately succumbed to those surgeries, if you will, and he died at the age of 72 on May 12th, 2018. Definitely sound off below in the comment section if you like this story. If you want to hear other cases, definitely drop them down below. I honestly cannot wait to tell you about the next stories. So again, this will come out every Tuesday. So the next case is actually going to be a little period piece on Lizzie Halliday, just to give you a heads up. And then thereafter, I have another case, and I will give you a hint. It is involving twins. Just if you guys do not know, I have twin boys, Zion and Zuri. So I was like, why don't I do a case about twin killers? So the third case that you guys will hear be twin twin killers. So just make sure you turn your post notifications on so every Tuesday you do not miss another upload from me. If you want to see my regular family style type content, you can definitely tune in on Wednesdays or Sundays to see that. But until next time, you guys, be safe out there. Keep looking at all these crime junkie cases. Let me know what you want to hear next, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.